Hello, my name is Travis McIver. I am the emergency coordinator here with Far Northern Regional Center. We teach classes for emergency prep and safety based information once a quarter, and we place these classes up on our YouTube site. So thank you for joining us today. I have three fellow instructors that are going to be helping me with this class today, and we're going to go ahead and introduce them. Danette, you would like to say hello?
Hello.
Thank you. We have Rebecca,
Hello, everyone.
and then we have William.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your help with me today. The class that we're going to be going over right now is going to be the flu and cold season, how to prepare for events of possibly becoming ill or even prevent becoming sick altogether. So that is what we're going to be covering today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And can you guys see that okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. So, as I said, today's class is going to be covering the flu and the common cold. And some of the items that we're going to be covering today is exactly what is the flu and what is the common cold. And that way you can kind of understand the difference between the two. But then we're also going to talk about risks involved with receiving the common cold or flu during this time of the year. Why do colds and flu often occur in the fall and winter seasons?
Because of allergies.
Some of that, yeah. Why do colds, or excuse me, how to prevent colds and flu from occurring? And if you're sick, do not give it to others. Other potential communicable diseases. And if you don't know what communicable is, that is just the fact that a virus can jump from person to person. That is an example of a communicable disease. And then we'll end it with a chance for questions. So the flu, a common viral infection that can be deadly, especially in high-risk groups. The flu attacks the lungs, nose, and throat. Young children, older adults, pregnant women, and people with chronic disease or weak immune systems are considered high-risk individuals to the flu. Okay, so the flu can be pretty dangerous if not treated properly. So please understand that, and that is one of the major differences between the flu and the common cold. So the flu spreads by airborne type events. So coughs and sneezes, that spreads the flu usually the most, okay? So if somebody's next to you and they're coughing a lot, they may be coughing up some of those viruses that can get onto you, and then that is how you are going to unfortunately get the flu. Touching contaminated surfaces. So let's say somebody has a runny nose and then they touch a desk, or if they coughed on the desk, that desk might now have those viruses that are being transferred from the person to the desk. So if you touch that desk, now you're picking up those viruses and you can become sick. You can also get the viruses from saliva, which usually happens via kissing somebody or sharing drinks, sharing food. You can get the flu virus from that. And skin to skin contact, you can also get flu viruses. So a handshake or a hug, all right, all of those things can help spread the flu. So we want to try and avoid some of those type of things. Symptoms. So symptoms are, this is what it's going to feel like if you get the flu. You might experience some of these. Now you might not experience all of them, but you could get some of these. So sore muscles, okay, you're going to feel a little bit maybe more tense, with your muscles a little bit more stiff if you have the flu. Coughing is usually very common with the flu. Chills, like little shivers, that happens a lot with the flu. Fatigue, meaning you're going to start to feel tired, you're going to feel sleepy all the time, you just want to relax. Fever. Fever is another side effect of the flu, which means you have an elevated temperature. Lost appetite. You're not as hungry as you normally are. Sweating.
Also too, sometimes if you have lost appetite, sometimes when you eat, you have no taste, or the food might taste ick because you're not really hungry. Your body's telling you not to eat it, and that's probably why you're not getting that taste you would normally have when you're feeling better and feeling good. Your food's going to taste really, really gross.
Yeah, and that's why, for instance, if you have young children, they may not want to eat anything. That's why maybe things like chicken noodle soup, which is a little bit easy to digest, and it's a more of a fluid. You can get that into their body a little bit easier. But you're right. A lot of people don't want to eat when they're sick, so please consider that, because your body still needs to eat. Okay. A runny nose, that's another big one for the flu. Sneezing, that goes right along with coughing. Okay, so we see a lot of coughing, a lot of sneezing when somebody has the flu. Congestion, meaning your nose is all stuffy. All right. Frequent headaches, shortness of breath, and a sore throat. So these are all examples of the flu. Now, I've had the flu before. William, have you ever had the flu?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not fun, right? So we want to try and avoid getting the flu, and we're going to get into a slide on that as well as we move on throughout the class. Now, the time period. On average, the flu lasts between 4 and 7 days. Now, you can be contagious during the first 4 days, typically, of the flu. So please be aware of that, because we don't want to get other people sick too. Next, we're going to talk about the common cold. So the common cold is a little bit different from the flu. Even though some of the symptoms might be the same, usually the common cold is not as severe as what you're going to see with a flu, okay? Another thing is that the common cold can usually be treated a little bit with over-the-counter medications, such as like cough medicine, cough syrup, aspirin. These type of things help with a common cold quite a bit. Okay. Now something else is that unlike the flu comes from the influenza virus, and the flu is just short for that. So not everybody calls it the influenza; they call it the flu. Now the common cold occurs from a whole bunch of different types of viruses. Okay, but they're just usually not nearly as severe as the influenza. The condition is usually harmless with the common cold, and symptoms usually go away within up to 2 weeks. The common cold is usually self-treatable through basic medications, as we said, cough medicine. Rebecca, I think, do you have any cough medicines that you recommend if you have the common cold?
I was trying to maybe take oh, what is that? It's blue NyQuil for daytime, for nighttime,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that way you're able to sleep and your nose and everything can kind of calm down. You can kind of breathe a little better. You're not waking up every hour, every 2 hours coughing and blowing your nose, and you can't sleep, and you have to put a pillow up behind your head to keep yourself up a little bit. So NyQuil just makes it a little bit easier to sleep. It doesn't stop it, but at least you could able to get a couple of hours of sleep and kind of rest, because that resting does help you to get better quicker than without taking anything.
Right. No, NyQuil is a great tool. That's a good one, Rebecca. NyQuil, it works excellent for the common cold. And they have both NyQuil and Dayquil. So if you wanted to take it during the day without being sleepy, you can take the Dayquil one too. Both of them work very, very, very well. So that is definitely a good suggestion. Now,
but if you have the flu or the cold or COVID-19 or whatever, that NyQuil is not going to do anything for you. That's when you need to go to the doctor or get actually medication from your doctor too.
Yeah, usually they treat the flu with they'll give you antibiotics, which helps increase your immune system to help push through the flu and recover a little bit quicker. Um, now the common cold spreads pretty much exactly the same way as the flu, so that's why these two get kind of confusing sometimes because they can still be spread through the same way as the flu. So things like sneezing, coughing, touching those contaminated surfaces, saliva such as kissing and shared drinks and food, or even skin to skin contact. All the same thing that spreads the flu will spread the common cold as well. So please be aware of that if we want to stay safe. Now, some symptoms. Symptoms are a little bit different from the common cold, but not a whole lot. So you can have a stuffy, runny nose, an itchy throat, sneezing and coughing, watery eyes. That's a little bit different that you don't see a whole lot with the common the flu, but the common cold, a lot of watery eyes type of situation, and maybe even a low grade fever with some of the common cold symptoms. Now, the time period for the common cold, because once again, now these are different viruses for the common colds. And nobody's going to really know what kind of cold virus you've received unless you go to a health clinic or the hospital and receive a test, and then they can figure out what type of virus you do have. But on average, 7 to 10 days, the common cold will last. It can last up to 2 weeks, but just remember too that these symptoms are not nearly as strong usually as the flu. Your contagious period will be based upon the virus you received, and medical lab testing, as we said, that's how we kind of determine what type of virus you have. And it also lets doctors know how to fight that virus once they know what it is. So here's some of the risks involved with illnesses, okay? Getting sick during this time of the year, fall and winter seasons. The most severe risk with becoming ill is going to be, unfortunately, loss of life is possible if you have the flu. If you're elderly or very young, that is a risk. So you need to take this seriously. If you think you have the flu, we need to go to probably have the doctor look at you and get you those antibiotics, okay? Also, individuals that suffer from immune disorders may be at risk too. So, for instance, let's say maybe you're fighting cancer and you're going through chemotherapy. If you're doing that, your immune system's going to be out of whack and you can get sick a little bit easier or more severe, and the illness may last longer. So if you have one of those type of situations, you need to be extra careful to try and not get sick in the first place, okay? Because it's going to be a little bit more difficult to recover from that illness. Now, another thing that being sick has an impact on is our economy throughout the whole country, okay? Work productivity during the fall and winter time frame tends to slow down a little bit because of the fact that businesses are losing employees, at least temporarily, because they're becoming sick. If they're sick, they're not at work. So if they're not at work, we're not producing whatever that company may normally produce. For instance, if you're a farmer and you grow broccoli, if you have 5 of your employees are sick, you're not going to be able to harvest the broccoli or place the seeds as effectively as you normally would, right? So what that does is that slows down the whole farm of growing the broccoli. So that's another reason to please consider the importance of, not going to work and staying home, because if that company only loses one person for a week, it's better than losing 5 people because you're spreading it to other people, right? So please consider that. It's important to stay home. Community. So flu and cold seasons have major impacts on the whole community that you live in. Okay. If the virus is very contagious, for instance, COVID-19, we've all experienced that. It can spread through a community very, very fast. Now, that can cause entire community functions to either have to be stopped or postponed. So please be aware of that. Another one is going to be a psychological factor. Okay, colds and flu can create social panic. So going back to COVID-19, at one point, if you remember, we had a toilet paper crisis, right? We had a toilet paper scare because everybody wanted to make sure they were stocked up on toilet paper, so they all went to the store and bought a whole bunch of cases of toilet paper. And what happened was what did that do? That creates us a shortage of toilet paper, right? And William or Jeanette, did you guys experience anything like that before, where you couldn't find the stuff that you needed because people bought it all up?
Not really.
Not really.
No, either. Not really.
You guys may.
I did.
You did, Rebecca. Yeah, me too. I
Because I ran out, so I went to one store had none. Then went
Yeah,
to the other store. The
it
store said you can only grab one at a time. And then went to another store, it was out. So if I went back to the other store, I only grabbed one, and it was only a 12-pack.
right, and it actually can
But
kind of get
That
scary.
was it.
Yeah, yeah. So that can
But
kind
at
of.
Walmart, people were grabbing like 4 or 5 or 6 toilet papers or whatever, and then pretty soon they had cut down how many you were able to get at one time because people were just grabbing and grabbing and grabbing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there's videos of people grabbing entire crates. so
And
so
people
that was
fighting for getting toilet paper.
right, and that just creates a big shortage for everybody else. So that's an example of a psychological effect that some of these flus and common colds can have on people. Now, flu and cold season. Flu and cold season is typically thought of as the fall and winter season out of the year. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that is. So why do colds occur more regularly in the fall and the winter seasons? Well, this can actually be for multiple reasons. The big one is that school starts, okay? And when school starts, if you happen to have children that are going to the school, now remember that school just starts up in the fall. So maybe all summer they didn't get to see a lot of their friends, and now they're all back going to school and they're with their friends. And now if one of them gets sick, those communicable diseases can spread very quickly. Okay. Other things like you have school sports. So let's say we're playing basketball, and if one of the players are sick or they're getting sick, now they're touching the basketball. And what do they do with the basketball? You're going to pass it to somebody else.
Or touch brother eyes, or touch the nose, or touch the
Exactly.
face.
Right. Exactly. And now that person's going to be sick. So that's how it spreads so quickly in type of schools. Okay. So be aware of that, especially if you have children, that just typically happens during the fall because your immune system is not really adjusted to those new viruses that are around, and it's a little bit easier to get sick. Now, the weather has another factor, is because when it gets colder, we start to do less things outdoors. Okay. You don't see it, as many things like picnics and barbecues and these other things that typically happen in the summertime. You don't see these as much during the winter and the fall. So people start to move things indoors, right? And when we move things indoors, everybody is close together in a small space, and that allows viruses to spread very quickly. Now, holidays, which we have a lot of holidays in the fall and the wintertime. You have things like Thanksgiving, New Year's, Hanukkah, Christmas, all these different holidays, okay, that occur, that creates social gatherings. Now, just like as the weather, when people all start to get together, that's when you start to share those diseases, especially with the holidays. There's a lot of foods, a lot of cooking, and people are sharing, different types of foods. And the viruses just spread very, very, very quickly. So please be careful with that. And if you do happen to get sick, I would highly suggest that, let's say it's Halloween, and if you're not feeling good, it may not be fun, but you may want to skip Halloween when you go out to look for candy or whatever the case may be, because you don't want to give that illness to somebody else, right? So let's do the nice thing and just stay at home. But there's lots of holidays, so hopefully you can make it up for the next holiday and go and visit with friends and family then. Traveling. So along with holidays, a lot of people travel. Okay, some people travel all the way across the country to go visit relatives. So you might get on an airplane, you might get on trains or buses. And when you're doing that, this is how the virus spreads across the whole country very quickly because there's so many people moving back and forth. You might be flying from Los Angeles to New Jersey, and you're going to come across a whole bunch of people in that airport, right? And it only takes a few people in that airport to be sick to start to spread it to everybody else in the airport. And not everybody's just going to be going from Los Angeles to New Jersey. Some people might be going to Dallas. Some people might be going to San Francisco. Some people might be going to, Nebraska, wherever you're going. And this how it spreads quickly throughout the whole country. So try and avoid travel if you're feeling sick as well. And make sure you're protecting yourself when you're traveling. Temperature on its own does not really impact the cold or flu directly. There's usually a myth that people say, hey, it's cold outside, wear a jacket so you don't get sick. Has anybody heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, honestly, it's not necessarily the cold that gets you sick. If you go outside and it's cold, as long as there's no viruses around you, you're not going to get sick. Although it's still a good idea to wear a jacket because you don't want to get a cold weather, right?
It's cold
Yeah,
out there.
But
Or
you're not
frostbite.
but you're not necessarily going to get sick. Okay. Now, one of the things that the cold can kind of lower your immune system a little bit just because of the way the temperature works with your body. But overall, as long as there's no viruses near you, you're not going to really get sick in the cold. So now let's talk a little bit about how to prevent getting sick. Okay, so the first one is let's wash our hands as frequently as possible. Okay, if you do things like, let's say you go to a restaurant for dinner or lunch, make sure you wash your hands before you eat your meal and wash your hands afterwards. If you go to the bathroom, you should be washing your hands. I would actually avoid handshakes and stuff, but if you have to handshake somebody's hand, maybe use hand sanitizer right afterwards. You can get like the little bottles that are easy to carry in like your purse or a pocket. I would recommend that. Carry that around. If you happen to be coughing or sneezing, how do we want to do that?
Coughing or sneezing, sneeze into your elbow.
Sneeze into your elbow. I think Rebecca said earlier too to me that she'll do it in your shirt so it doesn't spread out. Those are much better than sneezing in your hands. A lot of people have that reaction. Right. You have that reaction to put the hands up to your face. But now what's happening when you do that is you're sneezing on your hands. And if you don't immediately use hand sanitizer and a Kleenex or something and clean off your hands, if you touch something like a desk or a book, now you have the virus on those items, and somebody else that touches it or picks it up next can get those viruses, right? So like I think that was Danette said, sneeze into your elbow. That is correct. Make sure you sanitize your desks, doorknobs, and other surfaces that a lot of people come into contact with frequently. Doorknobs is a big one. Almost everybody has to use a doorknob to go into a room or a house or the store. Make sure if you're going through, you're touching those items that you use the hand sanitizer and you sanitize your hand after you contact those to get rid of those viruses. Another one that happens with doorknobs, similar, is how many of us use grocery carts at like Walmart or the mall and stuff like that? What happens? We go and grab those handles, right? But you don't know who had the shopping cart before you. So if that person was sick and they had the cart, now what just happened? Are you going to grab some of those viruses?
Possible.
Yeah, it's possible, right? So that keep that hand sanitizer with you. So after you have the cart, you can sanitize your hands. Keep your distance from strangers. Okay. Avoid
Huh.
large groups of people. Plan to shop when stores are a little bit less crowded if it's possible. It's not necessarily possible for everybody. But if you can shop in the middle of the week in the afternoon, let's say a Wednesday at 2 p.m., there's probably going to be less people because your average, most of the average population is at work then or at school then. So the stores are not going to be as crowded at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. Now, if you go on a Saturday at 2 p.m., there's probably going to be a lot of people, right? Because most people are off, so they're going to do their shopping.
Sure.
It's not always possible to avoid those time frames, but try and consider that. You can also go shopping later in the day, right? In the evening around, let's say 7 o'clock or something like that. There might not be as many people out then. So try and plan for that. Vaccines, those are a possibility to help prevent things like the flu. The flu vaccine, they usually have a new one that comes out every year. And what they do is they base the flu vaccine on the previous year's flu, the influenza virus. Okay. And that's how they always do it. So they're always kind of a little bit behind because the viruses change. Okay. So there's never really 100% way to be completely guaranteed against the flu because the virus will change and you can still technically get sick. But having that vaccine makes it a little bit less likely to happen. Or if you do get the illness, you might not have it as bad as if you did not get vaccinated. Eating healthy. This is a major tool to prevent from getting sick. If you drink lots of water, that keeps your immune system up. It keeps your cells healthy. So that's a good one. Drink lots of water and getting lots of vitamin-rich foods. Like spinach is really good for iron. Grapefruits have really good vitamin C. Try and eat all these different types of food that have all these different types of vitamins because your body is going to get those. And it just makes you have a naturally stronger immune system. And when you have that stronger immune system, even if you come into contact with a virus, you might not get sick. Okay. So try and do this as a potential way to prevent from getting sick. Now, along with that, avoid high sugar and fat content foods. Those really aren't good for you anyway, but along with it, it can help lower your immune system. And you don't want that because that'll increase your risk of getting sick. Exercise is another good way to build a strong immune system. So by going out for walks in the morning, some of you may like to lift weights, do push-ups, anything. Any type of exercise is good. Even some fun ones like sports, like maybe go out and play baseball or softball or whatever the case may be. Just get that blood flowing and it'll help build a stronger immune system. Do you guys have any exercises that you guys like to do or ever consider?
Nope.
No, not really. You avoid exercise, huh?
I think Danette wants to say something.
Yeah, Danette.
Yeah, I walk.
You walk, and walking's a great one, especially during the fall, because remember what we were saying earlier, a lot of people just go indoors and they almost hide indoors because it starts to get a little bit colder. But if you go for those daily walks in the morning, even in the fall, one, it's pretty because you get to see all the colors of the leaves start to change, right? You might see some fog in the mountains, and it's just pretty. It's a good time to actually go for a walk. So that's a good one, Danette.
Yeah.
So here's another good rule. Let's not pass it along, all right? So if you get one of these viruses and you start to feel sick, don't pass it to other people. If you're feeling ill, do not hide it from others. Let other people know. It's a good idea. Like, for instance, let's say you had a friend and they give you a call and they go, hey, I'm going to come over and let's play checkers or something. Well, if you're not feeling good, what should you do? You should tell them, right? Let them know that I know you want to come and play checkers. I'd like to play checkers too, but I'm not really feeling that good. So maybe we can do it on a different day when you feel better. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to give it to our friends, right? Well, we
Right.
don't give it to anybody for that matter. if you're sick, do not go to work or school. Make sure you call and say, hey, I can't go to school today. I'm just not feeling good, or I can't go to work. I apologize, but I'm feeling sick. Don't be afraid. Okay, you're not doing anything wrong. If anything, you're doing a good thing by not going to school or work. Okay, so if it's work, your boss, I'm sure, will actually rather appreciate the fact that you're not going to work because you're going to get everybody else sick at work, right? And that's going to cause more problems. So it's best just to stay at home for a few days, so you can recover. Report the illness to a medical professional. All right. Remember, those flus can be pretty dangerous. So it's a good idea to go to the health clinic and go see your local medical provider and have them test you and find out exactly which virus you picked up. And they may be able to help a much faster recovery that way as well, and give you tips on how to not get other people sick or feel better. Getting rest. Rest is pretty important, okay? Staying at home and resting is the best option usually for the common cold. A little bit of medicine and chicken noodle soup can go a long way. Remember, the common cold, it's pretty easy to just take things like, for instance, NyQuil, as somebody mentioned, okay? Take that, drink lots of fluids, and get the rest that you need, and you'll feel better again in no time. Avoid social gatherings until the symptoms have passed. Okay. Once again, let's say it's Thanksgiving. I know a lot of people like to do dinners and stuff for Thanksgiving. But if you're not feeling good, you don't want to really go to one of those events because now you're going to get everybody else in your family sick. And, that's just not good. So it's unfortunate, but you may want to consider passing on that particular holiday until you feel better. Use food or shopping delivery services rather than shopping yourself. So don't go to the store and get everybody else sick because you need to go, and even if you had to go pick up NyQuil yourself because you didn't have any, but you need to get some because you're not feeling good. Instead of going to the store, there's lots of different apps that you have on your phone now that can go and send somebody to pick that item up for you and drop it off at your front door so you don't have to contact anybody. And that is a really good tool of help slowing array the way viruses spread in our community, right?
I would say, Travis, too, if you're not feeling good and if you can't get to the store, you can always maybe call your family or friend and see if they can pick it up for you. But you want to tell me you want to leave it at your front door so that way they don't come in. And that way you don't open the door while they're there. You can get it after they leave. And then
Right.
get it off your doorstep
That's
if
a really
they're
great,
able to get it for you.
right. That's a really good suggestion, Rebecca. Is because that way, I mean, if it's family and friends, you probably don't even have to pay them to go pick it up, right? Most of them will just do it for you out of the kindness of their heart. So no, that's a great example of a way to get those items that you need. Okay, and that doesn't even cost anything, unlike the apps that we mentioned. So yeah, no, that's perfect. So here is an example of what other communicable diseases that are frequent the area up here in Northern California that you need to be aware of. Okay, so it's not always just flu or even the common cold, but here's some other things that you can technically pick up. The first one we're going to talk about is strep throat. Now, strep throat is a very, very sore throat. The inside of your throat becomes inflamed. It can be painful to eat anything or swallow. It hurts really bad. For strep throat, you definitely need to see a doctor because they're going to have to give you antibiotics for that. But also be aware that strep throat, it could spread very easy. It happens a lot in schools. So when the school year starts, there's usually an increase in strep throat that starts to pop up in both schools and the workplace. Have you guys ever had strep throat? Anybody here?
I have.
It's not fun, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah. William, how was your experience with strep throat? Was it pretty painful?
Yes, it was because I got it from my cousin because he had it one time when we were younger.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, you're just miserable. I mean, it's hard to even eat things like ice cream because it just hurts to swallow.
Mm.
Um, of course, a lot of us know what COVID-19 is, right? But COVID-19 is still one that's out there. Be aware of that. Um, there is vaccines available for COVID-19, but COVID-19 is spread the same way as the common flu is spread. So if you try and do some of those avoidance measures that we'd already talked about, you have a less chance of getting COVID-19. Now, the weird thing about COVID-19 is that some people have it, but they don't have any symptoms, so they don't know. And unfortunately, when you don't have any symptoms, you think you're fine, but you can still unfortunately give it to other people. So that's kind of one of those weird hazards. And we just need to be aware of that. But that's another reason why we should probably stay a good distance away from strangers we don't know, to avoid trying to, acquiring the COVID-19 virus. Now, I'll talk about measles, chickenpox, and monkeypox all about the same time because they're very similar. If you look on the picture over here, the second one down with the child with the red bumps and stuff all over their body, these are
Yeah.
examples of chickenpox, measles, monkeypox. They all kind of look like that. Now, chickenpox is very common with children. Well, same as measles as well. However, there is vaccines for like measles and stuff, but a lot of people, they'll get chickenpox when they're a child, and then you just get a really natural, a strong immune system towards it, and it's very likely that you won't ever have it again. Some people do get it again when they're adult, but most people, once you have it once, it kind of goes away. Now, measles and mumps, they're not as frequent as chickenpox, or excuse me, not mumps, but monkeypox. Um, Adults have been getting monkeypox because it's kind of a variation of chickenpox, and not everybody's immune to it. And monkeypox can be very dangerous towards older individuals that if they acquire it. Okay, so if you're getting one of these type of symptoms, I highly recommend that you get medical treatment so they can know exactly which virus you have to give you the antibiotics you need. Now, pink eye, this is another one that spreads very frequently amongst people. If you look on the top picture right there, there's an example of what pink eye looks like. It's just it's a viral infection that impacts your eye. It turns it all red, a mucousy. It's painful. It itches. It burns. You don't want this. If you have it, just like anything else, you should stay at home. That way you don't spread it to
Could
other
you get
people.
it in both eyes, Travis? The
You
pink
can
eye?
get it in both eyes, yes. Yep, it is possible. Usually you'll see people with pink eye in one eye, but it is possible to get a pink eye in both your eyes. The mumps. The mumps is when it's a viral infection that creates a swelling in either your glands in your neck or your face. An example of a picture, if you look at the little girl and the purple jacket, her cheek is all swollen up, if you can see that. That is an example of mumps. Mumps can be very painful as well. The only way you can treat, you need to go and see a doctor, get antibiotics for that. Okay. So that kind of covers a lot of these community. There's others out there, but these are kind of the main ones that we see a lot in these areas. If you're getting any of these, I would definitely go and see a medical professional so you can get the treatment that you need. Okay. Just be aware if you don't go and see it, it could actually get worse. Okay. So it's kind of best just to go ahead and report it to your local doctor.
What
You guys
about the stomach flu? What is that about?
Oh, the stomach flu. Okay, I did leave one out. Thank you, William. So the stomach flu, this is a little bit different from the normal flu, even though it has the word flu in there. It's actually not the influenza virus. The stomach flu is basically a little bit of a viral infection that is inside your stomach, and it can kind of make you feel nauseated. So people that have the stomach flu, you might want to throw up, unfortunately. It can also infect your you might have diarrhea because it's going to affect your stomach and your intestine area. You're just not going to feel good if you have the stomach flu. You're probably going to need a lot of fluids because you lose a lot of fluids with the stomach flu. Any other questions? Nope. Well, that's going to be it for our class. I hope you got something out of this, and I hope you remember that as we move more in towards our flu and cold season, that you're better prepared, and we can help prevent the spread of these illnesses to other people, because that's really what we want. We want a healthy and happy fall and winter season, right? So we can spend time with our friends and family.
So we can eat a lot of turkey.
That's right, a lot of turkey. I love turkey and pumpkin. That pumpkin's one of my favorite things. So either it's pumpkin pie or a pumpkin latte. I am looking forward to that as soon as it happens. I think some of the coffee shops have already started to sell the pumpkin lattes, so I need to get me some.
I
All
got
right.
pumpkin ice cream from Safeway. And I had
Ice
pumpkin
cream?
ice cream with whipped cream last night after dinner. It was good.
Well,
The
thank you.
pumpkin chai at Starbucks is awesome.
It is. That's one of my favorites too. Well, thank you everybody for joining me. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.
Okie dokie.